So I just want to wrap this up, this whole montauk thing, and have some final thoughts on it. Because, as I said in the beginning, we were kidnapped, and I remember me and my brother were picked up from our grandparents' house. That's where it happened, in the middle of the night, by some guy and this woman, and we couldn't figure it out because they're telling us that we were going to go camping in the middle of the night. So it was pretty bizarre, and we could tell that, you know, they had too nice of clothes on, and they probably had a gun in their holster or something too. They're probably from the NSA. That's what I'm thinking, but we just couldn't understand why we were going to camp in the middle of the night and why we needed like 2 weeks worth of clothes. And we, you know, because all the kids brought bags and they brought backpacks, and you know, we brought our stuff there. So, but nobody wanted to go. So they told us it would just be for a while, and just to hang in there on the ride. And some camp that turned out to be but anyways, they were full of BS, so we were basically forced to go. And then we get into the army truck, and there's a bunch of kids in there, and it was a gruesomely painful journey. I was praying the whole time that I wasn't going to die. I had no idea what was going to happen to us, and I was going to be strong for the younger kids and not let anything bad happen to them. So, you know, I was even making them laugh and comforting them on the ride, and I was reading books even with a flashlight. And I ended up taking care of those kids, and I became a mother figure to them. And yeah, I remember carrying them around, and you know, there's just so much betrayal and hurt, and we just buried that. But I can't even shake a stick at it, how much it was. But one little boy was so mad at me that when I did tell him that I couldn't take him home or take him out of camp, that, you know, he'd just scream at me and charge and run at me, and he didn't understand what was happening. And I didn't want to tell him that the worst scenario, which I already knew. So then he thought I was a liar, and a lot of things like that happened between the individual kids that were there. So, you know, I would tell him, like, you can go home soon, or and then I just lost it, and I'm like, I don't have a car, I can't leave either. And then he figured it out, and then he kind of felt bad for me too. So you know, people finally got it after a while, and then we just went into survival mode basically after that. So, you know, then he stopped hating me after a while when he realized that, hey, we're all in the same boat together. And I was even hiding like his backpack and his stuffed animals, I remember, under the mattresses, because I knew that they were taking our stuff away slowly. And we'd hide our stuff like that, or a piece of jewelry or anything in that dorm. So I made sure he survived, and it killed me to see the younger ones go through the same thing that I did. But we just kind of shifted it into another area of our brains, and then did our best to ensure that they survived. And, you know, and we did things to embellish each other's lives. And, you know, there's a lot of trauma bonding that went on there. So that's why the bonds are so strong. And, you know, those acts of bravery that were done for each other when we saved each other's lives and stuff out there was done for pure intention and innocent. And then that's what they were trying to strip away from us slowly. So burying emotions was one of the hardest things at first, because that's what you wanted to hold on to the most. So it was a lot of inner turmoil and friction, and our minds could not handle it at first, but then we had to get used to it. So that's why some of us became disassociative and still aren't really in touch with emotions, because we were forced into a mentality like that from the get-go. And not to mention, we were in a village of shapeshifters and battling all the time. So, but miracles happened there, like I said. And when the Dracos started to attack our eyes and tried to vril us, then with its proboscis and its like black goo that would like jut out of its eye, it shoot out, and then we actually cured a boy once there because we laid hands on him and we prayed over him, and then his eye was healed, but we thought his eye was going to be taken out. And because it sticks to your eye, and then it swells it up and you can feel it, and then you got to, like, every second counts if that happened to a kid. So we'd like go help that kid right away. And sometimes he tried to do it to like 2 kids at once. So it was like a spider on your eye, and then it would try to burrow into your eye. So then you had to pull it off real fast. But it was just a really disgusting energy. And this was in the picnic area that all this happened. Some picnic too. But, I exercised my authority of Yeshua, and I had the angelic realms with me there. And that's how I didn't get taken over. And I brought in more photonic light to that base. And because they had us in like this gray looking honeycomb looking energy dome thing that we could see. So it's like they're trying to jam our signals and frequencies. And Rink, he was just like this, we called him Alien Boy for a while, which he didn't like, but he did some incredible things. And like when we got in a circle as a group, he would literally just like get buoyancy, and he would rise like straight as a pencil, like a balloon up into the air. And then his head was the plan to hit the frequency domes, and then he'd poke a hole through it. And then it's like, once he did that, then we could, it was like he was ET phoning home. So then when he'd do that, then we could all get into our full power mode. So it's like he took the net down, or helped us to, and then it's like all systems go after that. So went into full power mode, and then we got help from the Yeti tribes that came out of the woods, and they just threw around the reptilians like they were chunks of wood. And it was awesome, because we did a lot of work with the Yetis after that. And these are the Montauk children's battle archives and story archives. So we got stronger, and then the Draco couldn't really hurt us anymore, or as much, towards the very end, because it went in like cycles and cycles. And then they gang us up on us in the green room, and then try to do what they did. But then when the light came in, and the lighter and higher dimensions, and those energies came through, like he booked it. They hightailed it out of there, and they'd take off. So, they'd go in the secret door in the base down the path, and then we'd try to find where their hidden door was down to the base. And we were even laughing at him and making fun of him one day as they were walking down to get to the base door. And I remember like we were making fun of their chalice, or what they're carrying in their hand, and their robes. So we did have power out there. But they hated us. They really hated us, because they couldn't feed off of us anymore. So everything got cleared. Everything got cleared out like skeleton key. And it was like killing droves of ants that just kept coming out of this anthole farm. And we're all muddy and dirty and beat down. And, we were like cave kids out there. And, we had bloody knees, bloody noses, and we were panting, and we had blood on our faces. And we were wild. And we thought that we took down Devil Island. That's what we called it. We took down Devil Island. And then when that was all over, we had like war clubs and sticks and like we were just fighting with everything we had. Because we were like Left for Dead out there, so we had to fight for the death. But then when that was all over, we went to the cafeteria area, and then we just went crazy for a while. We're like wild animals, and blasted the music, and it's like we had a party. And I would go get like 4 ice cream cups, because you could only have one usually. And it was a great experience, but it was a war zone out there. But then after that freedom, that moment of freedom, then army trucks pulled up, and we got duped again. And then we got thrown back in the system. So they convinced us to stay because, we were so used to shapeshifters and seeing non-humans that we were just happy actually to see humans at this point. And because we were all wondering when we'd be able to go home. We would always talk about that. We never do. So, we were like out there lost on Lizard Island going on like episode 10, Devil's Island. So we thought that it was over though, and we could go home, and because we were homesick, and didn't happen. So the military put on a show, basically, is what they did. And they told us how proud of us they were, and that we were, they'd never seen kids like us before. And, they made us feel like we were wanted, and we never really heard this stuff. So they played on our emotions and said that we took care of their problem for them, and that it was all for the good, and everything we went through was for the good, this and that. And they laid it on pretty thick. So they made us basically feel empowered is what happened, and validated and wanted. So then 2 lines were formed, and then the kids who wanted to go were in the right line. They were like, well, my job's done. Can I go home now? I want to get the hell out of here. So they didn't really care. And the line to the left was where kids could stay. And Caspel was the first in that line. And he got recruited for something else. So, they even told us that it was a super soldier program, but because of our state of mind that we were in, so wild and depraved, they made it seem like it was a warrior program for like youth or something. So, they made it sound really good. So they made it really legitimate. Like they legitimized it for us, and that all this had been worth something. So, and they even had like papers. They had like certificates that were rolled up, and they handed us them, and it was like an award ceremony, basically. And then they shook our hands and told us we did a good job. And my brother wasn't buying it for a second, and he like immediately left and threw his on the ground. And it seemed like a better deal for some of us than what we'd had just went through. So, and nobody had made us feel like that. So, we had PTSD, and these guys come in and tell us we're superheroes. So, and I'm sure they offered us a lot more. So, I mean, nobody ever gets compensated for this crap. Nobody. There's no restitution. We didn't get shit. And that's the way it always works. So they got to us again. And it was through our own pride and vanity that they played on, because they're the war dogs, and they saw that, they saw a vulnerable opening, and then they swooped in and stole our victory, basically, and our valor, and then gave us a false sense of honor to be a continuation of all this. So each got a handshake, and from this army guy that was, and we all looked crazy. We were just so dirty and muddy, like full of mud. And they even had quicksand out there, and we'd just been in an interdimensional battle as children. And then they said that we could officially be recruited into the army when we were 18, but we were too young then, of course, so they couldn't really do anything about that. And but later they'd give us medals and honors, and we grew up to be heroes. But it was a bunch of baloney. And they said, they'd give us the certificate, and it had our picture on it and everything. And so it looked official. And so like that one picture where Caspel's exchanging the handshake with the military people, and he has some stupid document there. That's exactly what it was like. So there's a little bit of truth in that. But he was like 14 when he got recruited. And, there's probably more to that ceremony than meets the eye, or things that he was initiated into after that. So when they said, they were sincere, and they said, like, we've never seen a group of kids like you before, and this is what we've been looking for. I think they were telling the truth about that. And, like they'd been watching us from the shadows or something. And then I'm thinking in my head, like, well, why didn't you help then? Where were you? They like came at the very end, just out of nowhere. So, we were messed up in the head, and Cass took the bait first. And that was the last time I saw him. And as still having like the connection that I knew he had to Archangel Michael, and being a light being and a light worker, a redeemable and good aspect of himself. And I was disappointed in him. And, I stood by him, and, we saved each other's lives out there, pulled up each other from all sorts of situations. And after what we had just gone through and pulled each other through and defeated, this pit of darkness and infestations, because they even told us it was really bad, these adults, and that they couldn't even hardly take care of it. So, then this happens. So it's confusing, and they really took everything from us. And that's where some of us, look at where some of us ended up: dead, disabled, droned, dysfunctional, or just drowned in it. There's nothing glorious about any of this. And I just get really sick of people that think there is. Because people are still fighting to get their souls back from this. And even if like Cass would still be out there, he's just hanging by a thread, like I was at the end, guaranteed, because God is the only thing that pulled me out of it. But they barely even let us have our time alone before showing up. These army trucks, and it's like we never got a breath. So that's the day I lost him as my brother, and I regret it. And I joined because I was going to miss my friends so much. And I shouldn't have followed. I should have followed my real brother, who's actually yelling at me, and I was trying to get him to stay, and he's like, I don't care. Like, there were kids that just didn't want any more to do with that damn base, and I totally understand. I made the wrong choice. They were the heroes. So, because the other kids were like, it's done. Why stay? Like, they were like, why? Just looking at us all like, why? Like, all the things that we had went through and knew was lies. And so it was a moment of Stockholm. That's how the whole Warrior SS started, at least for me and the originals there. I know there's different ways, I'm sure, that they can get to people, but I'm not saying this is the only one, but it's personal for me. So, the truth is they had no idea what to do with us, and they couldn't control us, and they just sugar-coated some concocted bullshit to try to get us to stay on board with them. So we got indoctrinated all over again, and everything that we worked so hard to get out of in the cogs, and then everything we tried to break free from, we consented to, again, basically under the guise of something else, in a recruitment program. So it was bogus Army Corps program, SS program, and because nobody even knew about it. And I thought I fought to get out after that, and we fell right back into the hands of that baby murdering Alpha Squad unit, Aquino ran Death Squad Legion, whatever the hell you want to call it, because he was sacrificing babies out there. And Archangel Michael's really going to string up that one in the end and put his head on a platter. Guaranteed. For all to see. He was the real threat to national security, not us. And probably even more dangerous than the Dracos, because they need someone like that and a human like that to carry out their plans, to infiltrate. So yeah, I have no problem in saying that joining that unit was the worst decision of my life. And, the whole camp hell test on Devil Island that we did, because that's what we called it. The kids who made it out saw it for what it was. And they, like I said, were the real heroes. And they stayed in the right line. And I knew that I was in the wrong for doing it and joining the military, because the military loves to make you think that you have a choice when you never really do. So they love to play the Hegelian dialect. And even in the end, I was only offered like $200 to stay there. So, I had an out and I didn't take it. And those kids, of course, got memory wiped. And I don't know what else happened to them in life, but at least they got away from the base and they never returned. And I saw some of them in my life, and I knew it was the real them. So they just don't have a clue, no memory at all. But they didn't want to get messed with anymore. So, they were protecting themselves and the ones who left. And you were fine the way God made you. And God was the only power that I had out there and to survive. And that's what got me through. And I prayed to those kids and I proved to them over and over that was true. But then they kept second guessing it, and then, would give themselves credit for everything or other things. And that's the nature of the carnal man, though. And that's why we needed a savior in the first place. So, and when we're born again, we crucify that carnal flesh. And, when you're born again, your old self is destroyed and you become a new creature. So that's what Adonai says when you come under his wings in the shelter of his high and holy mountain. So it wasn't, it's not found in the nests of the Star Wars, because I've seen what's up there, and he's going to shake all of them off of their nests up in the stars, and it'll be like shaking figs off of a fig tree, because Revelations is true, and we are the fig generation and the generation of Enoch. We've seen the sign of Jonah already, and it is the days of Noah, but in like a nano level all over again. So, I didn't know how to block the enemy's signal back then from triggering me in my right ear and in my head, but now I do. And the beast system can be overridden, and all this stuff is 100% real. So, when they'd signal me and trigger me like that, I would just go there, and then I would hope that it would get over soon so that I could get back in time to where I was. Because I could never figure it out. So, but guaranteed right now, this stuff is happening to somebody. So as bizarre as these stories are, I know that a lot of people are telling the truth. So the SS program makes you want to only rely on the flesh, and it makes you want to be stuck there so that your DNA can build them a computer and become a computer, so you can become military technology and turned into and activated as a weapon system. And then they can ride you like a parasite, like a carrier frequency wave. But you can override those synthetic neural synapses and anything else that they got. So you don't need any of it. You are an organic computer in yourself. So, you can plug into the source of all things naturally, and they don't have that. They're disconnected from it. So they try to connect us to them, to plug into them instead. They use us as batteries back there for a reason. And God is the only abundance in all things and all you'll ever need. They wouldn't try so hard to hack into you if they didn't desperately need you. They're like cockroaches. You shine a light on them and they go running. They needed us. We didn't need them. And the NSA doesn't have a God code. They're all liars. Absolute liars. And, they'll never have, all they'll ever have is just a fraction of the whole, because they themselves reject and are cut off from the path and the way to wholeness. So all they'll ever have is a fraction and a fractal. So just think about that. 3 times I've tried to tell my whole story with a spoken word, and, because I've been memory wiped like 3 times. Totally. But I always had a backup plan, and I knew it would always come back. So, I'm getting sick of doing this. So this is my last attempt and final word on it. But, it's Montauk was the beginnings of Hydra and all of it. And, I'd leave myself notes and clues, messages for like future time so that I wouldn't forget it. And I'd write people letters and family members, and always leave myself future reminders and stuff when I knew like I was going to get memory wiped or something. So it's like a loop that played back there. And it's like you would try to come up with a plan, and then you'd get like thrown back and try to climb through the mud again and remember what you're trying to do to carry out the plan you had before and stuff. So it's just a cognitive recall dysfunction, cognitively disabled in a sense, as far as memory goes. But that's what I think of the SS program. And I'm a warrior for Christ and an ambassador for the kingdom of heaven, and I always have been, and that's all I am. So Montauk is important for me to talk about at this moment, because it will unravel a lot of things for a lot of people, and because that's where this whole thing started. And for some of the originals especially that are still alive, everything basically snowballed from there. Because prior to getting thrown back into the Warrior Youth Program, whatever you want to call it, we were basically just an NSA experiment. And then we got moved up to different arms of the intelligence and training sectors. So they had no clue really what to do with us at the end. And they were just they mapped us out, they cataloged us, categorized us. They were always reorganizing and recalibrating and constantly. So they still didn't know what I was at the very end. I mean, I would I would prophesy, give them their death times, dates, numbers, all sorts of things. And then when they'd ask me what I am, I would say, I can't tell you. So we did protect parts of our soul aspect too, that they were trying to get into. And we would lie and say we were something else that we weren't, to protect that soul identity from them. And, the kids they were moved to different bases, yes. And, shuffled around sometimes to keep us in confusion, and we'd be happy to see each other when we did. But it's my wish that the 80s kids would get these initial memories back from MK Montauk, because it would wake a lot of them up. And, because I would wake up like in a containment unit when I got tripped into a clone sometimes, and it was like had a honeycomb floor, and it was all white, and you hear the signal, and then you're there, and be like an insectillion Barbara Bush there, or some other shapeshifter of him, and they treated us like toys, and it was a nightmare. It really was. And I've never wanted to murder somebody more in my life for some of the sick and twisted things that they did to our minds like that. And like the amount of lunacy that these people could do is unprecedented. It's beyond sick. I can't even describe it, but who the hell would want to endure that? And sometimes I can't even think about it, because it's beyond fucked up and beyond sick. So, you wonder why people that go through these programs, have mental breaks. Well, just listen to their stories. What don't you get about it? Like, you can discern who's telling the truth and who's not. If you have intuition. And even if you're a hybrid, you still are living in a human world, and a person can only handle so much. And for those 80s kids, Montauk was like a carousel basis of their cores that can help them deprogram, because it revolves so close to the core memories. The first timelines of being kidnapped and being processed through initial stages. And, I'm just hoping that they can, connect back to their inner child or to their soul matrix. And because God loves you just the way you are, and He knows every hair in your head, and He knew you before the foundations of the world. So there's nothing that He can't bring up from your brain, if your brain is in His hands. And because if you're not in control of your mind, somebody or something in this world is going to be. And His kingdom isn't of this world, and He's calling us out. And we've seen time wars, and we've seen the plans of the enemy and what it can do, and learn their tactics and secrets, and on a deep interdimensional level. And this age is coming to an end, and there's no doubt about that. So RIP to all the fallen soldiers, and in this complicated mix of humans, non-humans, cybernetics, transhumans, synthetics, clones, everything to the march of Gog and Magog. It is an amazing time to be alive, and we're the end time generation. And I know the real King of Kings, who actually sits on the throne, and we'll see that revealed in the end, because everything else is just moot. And learn to see by faith so you can endure to the end, because God showed me to trust in Him. And and He was the one who protected when they tried to take out our eyes, even, or any of the things that they did, and healed us and rejuvenated us and replenished us. And He can do so much more beyond that, more than what you could ever imagine, and take you to places you never thought you could go to. So, and those implanted memories, they'll come pushing up, just like Morgellons can, up through your scalp like a thin glass pebble, and He'll clean it all up for you. He'll get it all out and just work on you a little bit day by day, and clean you up and clear, all that filth away. He'll shake you off like a wet dog. And, there's nothing He can't do. Absolutely nothing. It's only man that puts God in a box, and limits His power in their lives. But that's, why I feel the way I do about the SS world, and it is what it is. And people like Holly Baglio, or that don't make much sense, that never really were SSs, but more like dysfunctional monarchs, just need to stop. Because Cass told me way back then that she was Charles Manson's kid, and she was going to be used as a composite of other people's memories in the future, sent to us as a distractionary threat or measure. But that's what he said to me. I don't know why. So yes, the tech is that good, and you really need to look close, and you need to test spirits in everybody, because not all that are here are alive. And definitely not everything that's here, or everybody, is written in the book of life. There's the book of the damned as well. So you want to be in the book of the redeemed. They send out synthetics and people like that to ride your coattails. And, they had people follow us all through our 20s and 30s still. But, if I've wrongly misjudged, then, I apologize for that. But basically into my 30s even, it would just get like really sloppy. Some of these people they'd send out, psyops people, it's pretty freaking hilarious, actually. They send out MAVs and all sorts of weird stuff. If you have the montauk frequency, they always can overlay that so that you, in some part of your mind, can hear it. So this gang stalking thing, these people are just energy vampire vampires. That's all they are. And they want you to give them attention. And they're provocateurs and exhibitionists in a sense that they want you to expose them so that they want to be you. I mean, they don't have a brain of their own. They don't even give them an iota of your attention. Like, I don't know why people dwell on this so much. Can't figure it out. Like, you sound like whining children sometimes that can't even defend yourself. But, you know, just ignore them and they'll go away. They will. Focus on the real creator and let him take your thoughts captive, and you'll never fail. You know, they're building a physical, strong SS was never even the point of the program. And the originals all know this. And, you know, they can send an ultra into the military that they could build up physically, and they do stuff like that. But these other clandestine programs like that, no, that's not what they're really about. And building up the physiology of a person, it's special projects designed to test the ultimate limits of anything and make you a demigod vessel. And the information that they want to get from you is what you're fighting them for and fighting for, really, when you think that you're on their side. You're not. So, you know, I don't need any attention, and I just like to disappear and never be found. I don't need any confirmation or anybody to tell me anything from anyone. I have everything I need, and I filter everything through the Holy Spirit. And, you know, I'm not a total recall daydream walker or anything like that. I'm just a real person who almost got soul scalped. And I don't give a rat's ass what people think, honestly. I'm here to get a message out, and people like to scramble and they like to go in circles. It's like they love it, and they like to hear what tickles their ears and makes them feel good. People don't like truth. They really don't. So, I mean, the stupidity of the human race is baffling, and it dumbfounds me. But on a different note, yes, we do have to keep compassionate and have fellowship with one another, love one another, and stay focused and stay centered and choose life. Because, you know, you can only attain eternal life through the one who gave it to you in the first place. And that, my friend, is the eternal Father, who was and is the great I am.